Well, hello and welcome to an Open Championship edition of On the Tee with H&B. I'm DJ Jones, Major Haversham's Lieutenant for Social Media. Before we dive into all things the Open and Carnoustie, we'd like to salute a few of our latest field reports from the forces. The Open Championship tends to coincide with the peak of the golf travel season, so we look forward to many more field reports in the weeks ahead. Be sure to keep them coming by tagging us anytime at Haversham Baker across social media. We love seeing those field reports, and you just might see it on an upcoming episode of On the Tee. So in advance of the 147th Open Championship, we polled the H&B forces and asked them to share some of the memories from their own rounds at Carnoustie. We look forward to sharing some of those with you later in this episode, but first, Johnny Miller and company are sure to toss around a few pearls of wisdom during this week's telecast. Chances are, however, that they'll barely scratch the surface of Carnoustie's rich history. To help enhance your own viewing experience during this week's Open, we've compiled a few of our favorite Carnoustie factoids. Factoid number 1 goes right to the heart of Carnoustie with the origin of its very name. In the year 1010, Scottish King Malcolm II defeated an invading force of Danes led by the mighty general Camus. Legend has it that the Norse gods were so incensed by the loss of their favorite warrior that they put a curse on the area, sending thousands of crows to the nearby Barry Sands. Soon, the number of crows inhabiting the area grew to such an extent that it became known as Carnoustie, which later morphed over time into Carnoustie. Today, the Carnoustie, which is played over the links every September, is regarded as one of the premier amateur tournaments in Scotland. Factoid number 2 covers the origins of the links itself. Records indicate that golf was played in Carnoustie as early as the year 1560. Alan Robertson, the game's first true professional, designed a 10-hole course in the year 1842, which Old Tom Morris later extended to 18 holes in 1867. This was Morris's first solo foray into golf course architecture, a portion of his career which would later lead him to the likes of Royal Dornoch, Muirfield, and Royal County Down. It was 5-time Open champion James Braid, however, who deserves much of the credit for the course which is played this week. The 10th hole at Carnoustie delivers factoid number 3, courtesy of its rather curious name, South America. The story goes that a Carnoustie caddy, who was set to immigrate to South America, joined a few of his friends in one of the local taverns for a going-away party. It must have been one heck of a party, because the caddy's night ended with him asleep in a greenside bunker on the 10th hole. When he awoke the next morning, the caddy shot up and asked, "Am I in South America?" No word if the caddy ever made another attempt at the journey, but the 10th hole was renamed in his honor. This year marks the 8th time that Carnoustie has hosted the Open, and our final factoid revisits the finest of them all. In 1953, fresh off of his victories at the Masters and US Open, Ben Hogan entered his one and only Open Championship at Carnoustie. Hogan arrived 2 weeks early and practiced at nearby Panmure Golf Club, teaching himself to pick the unfamiliar 1.62-inch ball cleanly off the equally unfamiliar links turf. In rather heroic fashion, Hogan went on to win the championship by 4 strokes, and he still remains the only player to have won the first 3 legs of the modern Grand Slam in the same calendar year. So as we mentioned at the top of the episode, we recently polled the H&B forces and asked them to share some of their own favorite memories from Carnoustie. We received far too many responses to put them all into this episode. You can see them all on Baker's blog on our website, haversham.com. But here's a few Carnoustie memories as shared by our own members of the forces. Our first Carnoustie memory comes courtesy of Richard Eisenlauer from Short Hills Country Club. Richard writes, "We're playing number 14 and my son Rick's caddy tells me that I apparently didn't raise him to listen to authority figures. The caddy goes on to say, I told him to hit 7-iron and stay short of the spectacle bunkers, but he wanted to hit 3-iron over. Now look at him. He's buried in the face of the bunker and hitting it backwards." The moral of the story, of course, is that one should always pay attention to the advice from a Carnoustie caddy. And with a cautionary tale on playing the 5th hole, Jerry Michelson from Bell Reeve Country Club writes, "On hole number 5, which was called Bray, I hit my 5-iron on my second shot and it literally took a gull out of the air. The seagull landed almost exactly next to my ball and my caddy didn't know what to do. She called into the pro shop to find out what to do with the severely injured bird and to inform me as to the proper rule of golf. Before the answer was communicated, however, I had already re-hit my second shot very close to the pin. Within seconds, I was informed that the proper action was to play my third shot from where the ball had landed, and my young caddy was to remove the bird from the course. I insisted on a momentary local rule which enabled me to make a putt for birdie on number 5 after the unfortunate death of another birdie on number 5. And if you've ever wondered if the custom of picking up a bar tab after a hole-in-one applies across the pond, Larry Pusateri from Lake Forest Country Club writes, "I had a hole-in-one on number 8. The marker was on the hole and he was as excited as I was when we saw it go in. We were the last group of the day, so I told the marker I'd buy him a pint in the clubhouse. After my round, I went into the bar and told the bartender to open up a tab. He replied, 'Are you the guy with a hole-in-one on number 8? I proudly answered, to which he said, 'Oh, there's already a tab open.' With that, the little old marker held up a pint for me to see. He had been in there drinking for over 2 hours." Some outstanding memories from Carnoustie there. If you'd like to share your own Carnoustie story, please feel free to do so across any of the H&B social media channels. So the pilot episode of On the Tee with H&B visited Carnoustie for a chat with Colin McLeod, Golf Services Manager. For a little more insight on what awaits at this week's Open, here's a portion of that interview, just in case you missed it the first time around. Shifting to the links, it's a pretty exciting year at Carnoustie for some pretty well-known reasons, but there's a lot happening at the course besides just the return of the Claret Jug. Tell us a little bit about what's new.
Well, obviously the Open Championship in July is the main thing. The second biggest thing is we've just spent round about $8 million on a new golf centre, which is adjacent to the first tee of the championship course. We have 3 courses here at Carnoustie, but the golf centre that we're going to be opening in the next few weeks, which has a lot of exciting facilities within it. We have offices, we have a boardroom, but more importantly for your clients and our clients, will be a brand new bar restaurant facility, which will seat up to 100 people, overlooking the first tee. Then downstairs, we've introduced beyond the pro shop, we've introduced 7 golf simulators. So we're going to be putting the first tee, the first hole of the championship course on these simulators for the bulk of the time. So anyone who's used to having a mulligan will not need it anymore, because we can have the first hole there and you can actually tee off the first before you go out and tee off the first.
Certainly a unique way to overcome the first tee jitters. We look forward to seeing the golf center firsthand. It promises to be a fantastic addition to the links. So there's no doubt a number of people tuning in that are counting down the days until their own expedition. Once that countdown is finally over, what can the visitor expect once they arrive to Carnoustie?
Well, what they can expect is a first-class experience, first and foremost. With the introduction of the golf centre and the bar and restaurant, they're going to get views over the first hole of a major championship course that they will not receive anywhere else. Our staff will be there to welcome them, and by the time they get to the golf course, we've got outstanding caddies. We often get told we've got the best caddies in Scotland, and I believe we've got by far the best golf course in the country. It's I've yet to play a better golf course, and I've played quite a number throughout the world.
So Carnoustie's, you touched on it there. Carnoustie's reputation obviously is well known, and sometimes unfairly so. I think just the other day on Facebook, somebody commented on our page that they played it in 30-mile-an-hour winds and a driving rain, and you chimed in to say that it's not always that easy.
No.
Any advice for somebody coming to the course on how to navigate the links?
Well, first of all, what's important is Carnoustie is, I believe, the most challenging golf course in the world. Jack Nicklaus referred to it as the toughest golf course he's ever played, and he knows one or two things. But to be fair, when it's set up for the players like Nicklaus and all the modern players, it is set up in a more difficult manner. Carnoustie is unique in its design that there's no more than 2 holes in a row in the same direction as you go around the golf course. Now that's important because given the elements of by the sea, the wind, that always takes account. So you've got to think your way around. It's a fantastic challenge, and there's many great comments that have been coming from Faldo, Woods, Phil Mickelson. They absolutely adore the course because of its unique design.
Well, of course, we all know the famous scene with the old Barry Byrne and Mr. Van de Velde climbing down and so forth. And a lot of folks, when they think of Carnoustie, that's kind of what they'll think of. But you know the links as well as anyone. There's 17 other holes out there. Are there any moments throughout the round that somebody should be looking for, maybe any particular shot that helps define the course, but sometimes maybe gets overlooked in the scheme of Carnoustie's story?
Yeah. Speaking personally, I love number 17. It's not a hole that's often up there as the most memorable holes, because there are clear holes with the memories. You mentioned Van de Velde. Johnny Miller's bunker is on 18 as well. And probably the most famous hole at Carnoustie is number 6, which is Hogan's Alley, which is named because of Ben Hogan and the way he played it in 1953. It's the only time Ben Hogan ever played the Open Championship. So we're very proud that he was our eventual champion.
So shifting to the Open, there's a lot of history there for Carnoustie. This is your 8th time hosting the championship. And even with as much experience as you have, hosting the tournament is certainly no small undertaking. When do your preparations begin for hosting an Open? And if you would, give us a little bit of insight into the scale of those preparations.
Yeah. Well, we last hosted the Open Championship in 2007, and it's not a word of a lie that the day after, we started looking forward to our next Open Championship. But we work very closely with R&A, and there's nothing we will do to the golf course without the knowledge of the R&A. And as you can imagine, as the event builds towards July, there's more and more preparation going on. Now, we've been working towards that for quite a number of years now. It's not just in the last 3, 6, 12 months. It's been years in the coming. Now, to give you an idea of the scale of the thing, Carnoustie is a town with 11 or maybe 12,000 people, and we're expecting 200,000 people to descend on us over the week. So from that simple perspective, it is a big challenge. But the bleachers will start to go up in the beginning of April. So anyone playing the course in 2018 will enjoy the experience of playing down 18 with the grandstands, albeit empty, will be there.
Fantastic. And you're right. That always makes for a great Kodak moment, as they used to say, at really any Open Championship venue. The opportunity to play with the grandstands and the iconic yellow scoreboard makes for some great photos and some even better memories. So this may not be the most diplomatic of questions for the guy who's about to host the tournament, but who do you think takes home the claret jug?
Well, you know what? We have a long history of fine champions here. What I am certain of, it will be someone who uses every club in their bag. That's one thing for certain. But the way things are going at the moment, how nice would it be if Mr. Woods perhaps picked up the claret jug, because it was at Carnoustie he played his first competitive shot in the UK from our first tee, and it'd be nice, I think, for someone like that. A great comeback, but you know what? It'll be an outstanding player who's played every shot in his armoury.
Well, we're on the same page there. Nothing would certainly make this golf fan happier than to see Tiger hold that claret jug again.
So Colin and I conducted that interview back in April, which may provide a little context to that Tiger pick, but I'm standing by it. Tiger by 2 shots. That's going to bring this episode to a close. Thank you as always for joining us. Be sure to tune in next week as we pay a visit to Ardglass Golf Club on the coast of Northern Ireland. But until then, enjoy the Open Championship, and we wish you plenty of golf at its finest and life at its best.